The Copa America is off and running. A few observations from me before we delve into this recap from Bolivia, preview for Panama for the United States men's national team. First and foremost, we're all watching the Euros, as I talked about on our last program, and the Copa America just doesn't compare. But as the days go by, you can feel it ramping up. And as long as we get there, we may not have, the Euros started at an 8, and now they're at 8-9. Copa kind of started at 4-4, 5. And now it's getting up there. We had some good turnouts by Colombia and Brazil and Costa Rica. It's going to improve as we get along, so I feel confident about that. I thought I wouldn't be able to watch 5 games a day, but I've discovered I can. I don't know how. Granted, you skip a little bit here and there, but generally I've been watching a lot, as I imagine many of you have as well. So the Copa America will build up some steam, and it's going to be fine, despite some of our worries. They are legit worries. The organizers can't compare to what UEFA or FIFA can provide in these big competitions. The other big ticket story was how CONCACAF is going to fare, and I am recording this as this is on a Tuesday after all the teams have played once, and the United States and Mexico won. Mexico beat Jamaica, so we take that with a grain of salt. Costa Rica got a point against Brazil. And then Panama and Jamaica, you can certainly include there, and Canada, all were pretty gallant in their defeats. We'll see they can go. I feel pretty strong about the fact we'll get 2, maybe 3 teams in the quarterfinals. Who knows if Costa Rica can throw a spanner? No one likes to play Costa Rica. We've seen that in World Cups, even as recently as 2022. They can mess things up for people. Just ask the Japanese, who almost got their... They still won the group, but they lost to Costa Rica. So I feel better about CONCACAF's performances despite all the people saying the big gap. There isn't a big gap. We have the big 4 in South America: Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and Uruguay, and then Ecuador a little bit before. But then the teams after that are not good. That's a little strong. Aren't as good. And I think that's where like USA and Mexico and Canada can slip in there, and that's why an expanded Confederation of the Americas really is essential. It really is moving forward. We can help each other out. We need numbers. So that is all good. But here today on the Soccer OG, check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. If you haven't heard the one with Michele Giannone, where we talk about the Copa America, we'll have John Arnold, who also covers the CONCACAF and everything quite in detail. That's a new podcast, will be out on Wednesday. So we're going to preview the Panama game, which is on Thursday in Atlanta. Group C, second round game. The United States win that or tie that. Win that, they're through. Tie that, we'll see. Lose, they're going to have to do something against Uruguay. And then Uruguay will take on Bolivia. So I do want to talk about the Bolivia game a little bit, because I think that sets the table. And me included, everyone said how bad was Bolivia. I watched them a little. I watched some World Cup qualifiers. And you just base it on what you see standing-wise. And in the CONMEBOL qualifiers, where they're 9th out of 10 teams. But in the aftermath of that game, people were like not giving the U.S. any, I shouldn't have people, but it was a lot not the benefit of the doubt, because we're all talking about Bolivia. And I'm amazed how many Bolivian football experts are out there now that know about how poor this Bolivia team is. And if you look closer, which I did today after hearing person after person tell me how bad Bolivia is, and I agree with it, they're not terrible. They're not terrible. They have some positive things going. They are battle-tested by playing all the heavyweights of South America regularly, which is more than the CONCACAF teams can say. It's a team they should have won. It's ranked in the 80s in FIFA. But it's still a good win. And it was 2-0. It should have been 3-4-5. But, we know about how, look, it did feel, there was disappointment there where the U.S. scored that early goal and didn't go for the jugular. And long stretches where they were just disconnected, and some poor performances in certain areas, which we will get to. But it was still a good win. A clean sheet, 2 goals, which should have been 3 or 4 with any semblance of better finishing. So I can sit here and tell you I'm not impressed, and I'm not impressed, but I'm not disappointed. That's a good win. Look at Brazil. Colombia almost had it complicated, and Paraguay is a team that Bolivia, I think in a World Cup qualifier recently lost them 1-0 away. We know about Bolivia's home field advantage. So why, Canada hanging out with Argentina or I mean, it's just perception's a bit wacky with this U.S. team. It was a good win. There are some question marks certainly as we go through that, looking towards what's going to happen next. They didn't play great, and we know, but I still feel good about the fact that they didn't play great and were able to get a clean sheet and a good result. I want to start with Christian Pulisic because the big conversation I want to have here, the overarching issue is that we need our star players to deliver. We can talk about Greg Berhalter. We can talk about players 15, 16, 17, 18. But if the U.S. are supposed to make a deep run in this tournament, our star players, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, that might be it. I mean, seriously. And I'm going to talk about Gio Reyna because we're going to have a conversation. Let's say maybe everything else is an add-on. If Flo Balogun scores goals, if Wes McKennie gets in there, if something comes from somewhere else, if our defense is watertight and doesn't allow a goal or maybe a goal throughout the tournament, we're in business. But the best way is your star players have to deliver every game, if not almost every game. Christian Pulisic is doing that. Saw that against Brazil, and we saw that here today. The midfield was disappointing, but we did get Tyler Adams back, which is good news. Anthony Robinson was the second best player on the field outside of Christian Pulisic because the goal carries all the weight. I thought Joe Scally was fine. I'm not going to talk about do we have an upgrade at right back. It's his job. The center backs were not. And we still see these sloppy turnovers, which would be punished by other teams. I just want to reiterate that if this was Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman, we would be getting reels made about a bad pass. And I'm telling you, in hindsight, while they're not the cleanest defenders, and they're very one-dimensional as defenders, they're very good at defending. This is, if that was... Tim Ream and Chris Richards, which we just can't put our finger on it, gives the ball away and hasn't cleaned up his game despite doing so well at Crystal Palace. Just because he's doing well, the point I'm saying, doesn't translate to this. And that's why I think we have to get away for a little bit from who plays where and what, and just rubber stamp it and say he'll be good. Because it's not good. And I would like to think of Cameron Carter-Vickers or Miles Robinson getting some minutes here. I don't think they will. But it scares me. It scares me. Certainly against Panama, which are very plucky, and certainly against Uruguay under Marcelo Bielsa, who can fly. So that's a little nerve-wracking. Matt Turner, decent to good. So that's what we have here for this U.S. team. We'll talk a little bit about... Oh, by the way, I didn't say... Did I miss the like and subscribe? What's the matter? Like and subscribe is here. I'm so sorry. I've lost the plot. So... I think it's going to be, we'll talk about Panama, but I think it's going to be the same 11. Maybe Yunus Musa gets in there. Remember, Tyler Adams was on a minutes limit. So there you have it. Let's have a conversation about Gio Reyna. I had a tweet, and I got Twitter assaulted. And probably, maybe it's a bit of trolling on my part, where I said disappearing act by Gio Reyna, just like he did against Brazil. And I was told, I was lectured over and over again. And, people on social media talk to you like you're a child. And I just appreciate if they did their homework on what I've done in this industry and just shoot from the hip. But you can't almost say stuff like that without getting lectured by whomever. And what they were saying to me was... Greg Berhalter is playing him in his very deep-lying midfield role, okay, and that will not allow him, it's Greg's fault, that it's not allowed to be in a more advanced position, and that BJ Callahan played it, and I go, okay. It's not the ideal role for Gio Reyna, but that's the gig. That's the gig he has. This is the way the U.S. plays. The number 10 position, there's not many of them in this world football, and this is not what Greg Berhalter plays. Should we have a player play to our strength? Sure, but that's not what he is. This is the gig. A lot of players in that position, and I was told he was a 6. He was not a 6. And I was told about these heat maps. This was just one heat map. That is not the heat map of a number 6. You can see it's mostly in the midfield, a lot inside the attacking half, some dropping back. I was being told that he was deeper than the fullbacks, maybe for a fleeting moment. I want to say this about playing that position. There are a lot of players that are 10s or attacking 8s that drop back. Sometimes they can't. They do it on their own, and they're not told by the manager to do it. We don't know if that is Greg's verdict or if it is Gio Reyna naturally dropping back. You know who used to drop back all the time? Zinedine Zidane. They look to get the ball and bring it up. Ricky Puig, I've seen him in MLS a lot. He does it. Luka Modric, they connect the boxes. And Gio Reyna is doing that. And there needs some work. And this was not his best performance. We also have the situation with Gio Reyna where I was told about all the stats. And I'm not picking on Gio Reyna. As I said, the overarching comment, if we have any chance in this tournament, Gio Reyna has to be on the level of Christian Pulisic with output. We need him providing some great moments, or we're not going to hit our targets. Whatever we want to talk about the coaches and the supporting cast, Gio Reyna has to hit great balls, score a goal. Again, I'd love to see him get set pieces. We're critical of the set pieces, but whether you want to believe it or not, we've actually had a goal off set pieces the last 2 games against Brazil and against Bolivia. Even though it was a short corner, it's a set piece. They scored a goal. And it was a free kick against. So while I'm saying, yeah, I'd like to see Gio Reyna take set pieces, he's not, because they're getting results on those set pieces. So then I was told about winning duels. That's nice. And then I was told about he's winning yellow cards. And when we're having this conversation, it feels to me that we're setting the bar really low for him. We can't set the bar for him. This is the big time. Whatever's happened with his club, none of our concern now. This is about being a star player for this team. So I was told he picked up some yellow cards. Anybody who saw those 2 yellow cards by Bolivia, those weren't being mismatched or late on a challenge. Those were message senders. That was from the coaching staff, hit Gio hard. The first one, which was a yellow, almost a red. The second one was the same kind of thing. They knew what they were doing. That was trying to get under Gio Reyna's skin because maybe it works. Expect to see that in other games too. You see how Christian Pulisic reacts to that. He doesn't take it. Gio's not at there, but we need him to get to that point. And we need some players on this U.S. team to protect him if it happens. So those were the 2 yellows. So I can't really sit there and say he had a really good game. My tweet where I said he disappeared, that was heavy-handed. But he was below standard. He was. And again, I'm not picking on him. I love Gio. I tell you, he's our second best player. But we need him here. And our expectations should be here. A lot of folks there that are on YouTube, Pete at 11 Yanks, who I spent a lot of time with, I did hear, and I didn't hear it myself, that he caught ear of this. He saw the tweet. He responded to me, which is tradition. And I do believe on his show he said, people should not listen to me or take my content. And regardless if he said it or not, I'm just telling this because we're adults. If anybody tells you that about someone else, that's a red flag. If anyone tells you that, whether it's 11 Yanks, whether it's ESPN, whether it's Fox, red flag. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never said to anyone not to listen to someone. You are adults. You can figure that yourself. And you can make your own opinion. So I'll leave that at that. So let's get into Panama. This is going to be a tough game. This is a team that U.S. have dominated historically, but in recent years have struggled with. That's Thursday night again in Atlanta. Coached by Thomas Christensen. They've done very well by qualifying for the Copa America. They crushed Costa Rica in the qualifiers to make it here. They lost to Mexico in the semifinals. The USA beat Mexico. So if you do the math, the U.S. should win this game, and I do believe they win it. It's going to be uncomfortable, 1-0. Good players, more and more playing overseas. Not exactly the Premier League, but they're playing in some Central European leagues. Some are playing in Israel, like the goalkeeper, Orlando Mosquera, who was valiant against Uruguay. A couple guys playing in South America. A couple of the strikers, Jose Fajardo, who plays at Católica in Chile. Barcenas, Coco Carrasquilla, 2 fantastic players. So they have a good quality. Panama is moving in this direction in our region, which is great news. I love La Marea Roja, as I like to call them, the red tide. And we saw the Uruguay game. And I also want to say when we look at Panama, we see a blueprint on Uruguay. They didn't concede against the Uruguayans, and the Uruguayans ran out of gas in this Bielsa Bowl. So when we play Uruguay, remember that. Don't give up an early goal. If we can get to where Panama goes, we will beat Uruguay. Because Panama was dictating terms. Uruguay plays like this, and if they don't get their way, they're doomed, in my estimation. They did win it 3-1, but it could have been a much different game. Panama could be very proud. Panama's going to come in here with guns a-blazing, feeling like if they can get a result, even a point, they're in business to advance to the quarterfinals. World Cup qualifying, Panama beat us down there. That was a very difficult game pill to swallow. 2023 Gold Cup, Panama beat the U.S. in the semifinals, although that was a B team for us, and that was a shining moment for Panama, and it wasn't a B team for them. So this is a good team, well coached, and it's going to definitely be an upgrade from Bolivia. The U.S. should win this, and I'm setting the bar low. I think they can win it by more, but I think the finishing's got to be better. And again, I think the lineup doesn't change. Flo Balogun's scoring was huge, even though he didn't have a great game. He is the number one guy we need to score goals. And Christian Pulisic can't do it alone. And whether Gio Reyna's deep or not, I like the fact that he go collect the ball deep. But let's raise our standards for him. Okay? Let's raise our standards. Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Like and subscribe us here. We'll be back after the Panama game to recap it and preview Uruguay. We're having fun now in the Copa America.